Our starting lineups presented by G.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to After the Game with Todd Leary, live from Yogi's, of course, coming to you right here in Bloomington. Todd Leary, star of the show, of course, brought to you by Andy Moore, Honda of Bloomington, as well as French Lake Resort and Casino. Thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate you guys. I want to give a big shout out, first of all, to the Finney Hospitality Group, Nathan Finney, Chris Martin, all the managers, Kelly and Lindsay, everybody at the Tap, Social Cantina, Smokeworks, everybody at Andy Moore, Rich, Adam York, and everybody there. They got a 0% sales event going on right now. First time ever. So if you want to get yourself in a great Honda, do that. Get down to French Lake as well. Todd Leary, of course, star of the show. Welcome in. Indiana gets a 84-76 win over Nebraska, which any win in the Big Ten is important. It was difficult. It was not without trouble, but Indiana gets the win. Most important.
Yeah, they did. I mean, and it was, this was as close as it could be to trouble. I mean, falling behind in the second half after coming off to a really good offensive first half. I think one of the big issues I just have noticed this for a couple of games is our inability to get stops, and defensively we're not as good as I think we expected to be at this point in the season. And I'm not going to jump on a bunch of negatives. Hey, we got to win. This is a game that you had to win. At the end of the day, I said it the other day, nobody's going to look at the Wisconsin game and 5 weeks from now, they're not going to look back and say how close it was. We almost won. They're going to chalk it up as a loss, and vice versa for this game. They're going to look at this as a win down the road, and that's the key. Now, the coaching staff and the players have got some issues to deal with and some things to talk about and clean up. But, offensively, there was a lot of things today that I think we've been waiting for and looking to see happen. And Rob Finney's first half, how can we not, elaborate on that some more? I mean, that's what – if you can get that out of him consistently or somewhat consistently, boy, this team is a much different basketball team. And there are some real positives that come out of this game, along with just the W.
A lot of people commenting. All right. Cheryl says, hi, guys. Thanks for everything as well. Thanks a lot for you joining us. Keith says hello. James Cochran. Hey, James, how are you? Jay Jones, Alan, Kelly, Tim, William, everybody jumping on here. Let's first talk about Rob Finney. Everybody's been asking, trying to get him going. When's he going to get going? Man, oh, man, you talk about coming out on fire. He had a ton of points, 14 points early on, ended up with 18 points for the game, career high in the first half. Crazy for him. How important is it for Indiana to get Rob Finney going, period?
Well, I mean, substitute the name out. It's awesome that it's Rob, but they've got to get some other people going, whether it's Rob, whether it's Anthony Leal, whether it's Trey Galloway. I mean, they've needed to jumpstart someone, and to start the season out, there was no one other than Trace Jackson Davis was really off to a good start. And then all of a sudden, Armand Franklin, I don't want to say came out of nowhere, but just kind of flipped a switch. And all of a sudden, he was a guy we could count on game after game. With his injury, we've talked about who's going to be next. Somebody else has to step up, and it can't just be, Trace Jackson Davis and then Armand Franklin. It's got to be a consistent group that, every night a different guy can step up. You never know who's going to be the guy that steps up and has a, it doesn't have to be a career night, but has a, above average game. And this is something we've not seen out of Rob a ton. So obviously it's terrific to see that. I think the next guy that has to, get prodded a little bit is Trey Galloway. I've been a Trey Galloway fan and supporter since he was lived in Carmel and played up at Culver and came here to IU, but he's offensively inefficient right now, and he's hurting them. And if he's not able to fix that, honestly, you're going to have to put him on the bench and get some guys in there that can score, because you're not going to be able to win games unless you can score the basketball. And they're trending better. I don't want to turn it into a negative. Trey had some positive moments. Trey has the ability score offensively. I just think he's been inconsistent as a freshman. And
yeah, he had an okay night. He had 8 points. He was 4 of 8 from the field, which that's nice, but he was 0 for 4 behind the 3-point line in 22 minutes. He's got a ton of minutes. He's gotten the most minutes of all the freshmen.
Sure.
So he should basically be the
of
most
all the other
comfortable
freshmen
of all those
combined.
guys.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Like comfort level, he should feel okay with it. You always say when freshmen come in, there's kind of 2 starts to their season. There's a start to college basketball, and then there's a start to the Big Ten season, because Big Ten basketball, everyone that's played it will tell you it's different. It's faster. It's more physical. Guys are stronger. Older guys just take advantage of younger guys. And you can look at some individual plays tonight, and you could say, yes, Trey Galloway got taken advantage of offensively by some North Nebraska players. So did Anthony Leal. But that's going to happen. Rob Finney got taken advantage of, and he's supposedly one of the best defenders in all of the Big Ten. So it's not just because they're freshmen. It's just when guys are good offensively, and Nebraska is a team that's coached by a guy who not only played in the NBA, but coached in the NBA. He has that NBA style where it's one-on-one. They're difficult to defend. I love the start Indiana got off to, because this is always a scary game. Now, you can look at it and say Nebraska's lost 20 games in a row, so that's a game that Indiana should win or will win all the time. That is true, but Nebraska's a scary team, because when they get things going, and the Mayan kid in the first half knocking down threes, I think he made 4 out of 5 threes in the first half. When they get guys at those kind of performances, they're difficult to beat, because they have such a one-on-one style, which is so much different than every other team in the Big Ten.
Matt, it's just, Todd, is this team not listening to Archie on defense? Why all the lapses?
Yeah, do you say they're not listening? I mean, it's a possibility that you say that, because I really think that there's guys that are not working together. They don't talk and communicate as well as you'd like to see them do that. I just think there's some things that this team I don't think they communicate that well. I've said this for several games in a row that I don't think we're that good defensively. I mean, we're like Virginia on the offensive end of the floor, and we're not like Virginia on the defensive end of the floor. And so I think they've got some cleaning up to do and some things to do on the defensive end of the court in order to – the tough schedule of games is getting ready to come up. I mean, we thought just because this next game against Purdue is at home, it's a game that they should win. But, I mean, obviously we're going to talk about Archie's not beaten Purdue or Matt Painter yet. And on the flip side of it, Purdue just went into Michigan State and won in the Breslin Center after scoring 16 points in the first half. So they've got to be feeling pretty good about themselves. I mean, it's the tough meat of the schedule. Every team in the Big Ten is going to have just a brutal stretch. The rest of Indiana's schedule is brutal. Brutal.
I don't want to put this up just to start spinning stuff, because I know you like to talk about this, but Jordan brings this up too. Says a W's a W, but when do we use Landry? He's afraid he's slipping without the playing time. I know you made mention of that. It's a fine balance. You've got to win the games. You've got to be comfortable. Archie's got to be comfortable with the guys on the floor. He's got to try to get some development out of him. It's a fine line.
Yeah, it is, except for, if Rob Finney plays like this tonight, it's going to be difficult to get a ton of minutes for Christian Lander. However, I will say this is the only game, first and only game this season that Rob Finney's played this way. If I were sitting on the sideline, which Archie Miller is way smarter than I am and a better coach than I am, but if I were on the sideline, this probably wouldn't have happened tonight, because I would have already put Christian Lander in the lineup many games ago, and we would have dealt with his having troubles with turnovers and things like that. We would have dealt with that. He would feel more comfortable on the offensive end. He would be creating for other guys. I would have had him in the lineup more at this point. But if Rob Finney's able to play like he did tonight, then honestly, this is totally just me talking. I don't think this will probably happen. But I would take Trey Galloway out of the lineup, and I would put Christian Lander in the lineup, and I would play Rob Finney with Christian Lander and put them both out there on the floor. Because if Finney can score, then leave him on the floor with Christian Lander. He played like a 2-guard tonight. He didn't play like a point guard anyway. So having them on the floor together is not an issue at all, I don't think. And teams all over the country play two guards together all the time.
You're listening to Todd Leary, of course. We're after the game with Todd Leary live from Yogi's here in Bloomington, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington as well. Friend Slick Resort and Casino. Make sure you get out. If you need a Honda, Andy Moore's got a 0% sales event going on right now. They've never done it. It's never happened in their history. So this is a rare opportunity for you. Get down to Friend Slick. Check out the Resort and Casino. Todd, you like going down to the casino. Well, we get some bets going on. We got plenty of stuff to bet on, but betting on Indiana as we go forward, this schedule gets tough. You have pointed it out, and my God, I looked at it and I'm like, oh man. I don't even know what this is comparison to. This schedule coming up now is beyond brutal. They get a W here, but they have got to improve on things.
Yeah, they do. I mean, look, you can't, as a fan, we don't want to get negative. We don't want to all of a sudden, start doing doom and gloom all the time. But when you look at this schedule, there's not, Indiana has 8 wins, I think, right now. What are we, 8-5? There's not 4 more guaranteed victories on this schedule, and that's tough. I mean, you finished this year with 12 wins, only 12 wins, and you got some problems. Like I'm not trying to create an issue. I'm just telling you, this team should be farther along than where they are right now, and this is not a 12-win team. Like this. This team should win. This team should be able to win more games than 12 games.
James comments, Nebraska packed the paint. They didn't let the threes that were going down in the first half change their game plan. Knew that eventually IU would keep knocking down the threes. Nebraska made it tough for Indiana. I looked up, and I'm like, oh, my God, this is a one-point game.
Well, 7 made threes in the first half. Indiana is last in the Big Ten at only averaging 6 made threes a game. So if you're game planning against Indiana – as a coach, obviously, I think Fred Hoiberg in Nebraska took the stance of even if they knock a few shots down, let them keep shooting. And what would this game have been like if Indiana doesn't make all those threes in the first half? Now, I'm not trying to play that side of it. I get on us for bad shooting all the time. So when we make them, I'm going to celebrate and throw a party. I'm all for it. But they're going to have to do it consistently and a few games in a row. When Armand Franklin had a good game, one good game, I didn't freak out and all of a sudden say, he was the second best scorer on our team. When he had 2 good games, I still was a little bit hesitant. But after 4 or 5 games, and he proved it game after game after game, I became a believer. And that's what this team has to do shooting the basketball wise. This one game is actually really one half because I don't remember what we finished at, but I know we started 7 for 9 from the 3-point line. And I believe, hang on, I've got it here. We finished up.
They finished 2 of 11 in the second half, 9 of 24
9
overall,
of 24. So we were 2 for our last 15.
Yeah, that's horrible.
That's not good. But you got to look at it as a whole, and we'll take it as a whole. They got off to such a hot start. You're also not going to expect them to make 7 out of 9 to start every game either. But had they not done that, had they started out and made 3 for 9, this is a whole different game in the first half, and that's kind of the scary part. But I don't want to. We play devil's advocate on this stuff too much anyway. They got a W, and that was the goal. You can only beat the team in front of you right now, and that's what they did today. And so we have to be cool with that. Now they've got to turn around. This is a big week, Jim. I mean, this is rivalry. This is the biggest game from a fan's perspective, so far this season. And this is a big-time game that I think Archie Miller needs to win. I think this Indiana team needs to win. But it's not going to be a cakewalk. You can't look at Purdue's, win-loss record and all of a sudden think that you have a big advantage going into this game because it's just not proven that way.
Yeah, Indiana, now 4 players in double figures, almost at 6, because you have Trey Galloway with 8 and Hunter with 9. A more equal distribution of points, which is something we haven't seen lately. It was kind of top-heavy. They're going to have that. As you said, Purdue coming in. Archie is 0-6 against Purdue, and that is going to start ramping up. You go 0 for 7 at home, and on top of that, it's going to become more and more difficult for him.
Here's the circumstance. Last year I think that we all thought, okay, well, we're going to wipe that record out because you had Bob Knight returning. You had Purdue coming in that wasn't playing that great. You had IU that was playing pretty darn good, coming off of a couple of really good games, I think, with Ohio State and Maryland. They had everything going in their direction, and they still didn't get the job done. So I think I guess I want to say you don't rely too much on what's happened in the past. You look at what your opportunity is in front of you, and this is a team right now that I really think this is a must-win. It really is. I mean, you hate to say that in January this early.
We've been saying that almost every game here of late.
What's that?
We've almost been saying that of almost every game here.
That's because Nebraska was a must-win. You had to win that game. Maryland, you had to win that game. Like, just looking at what your record's going to be at the end of the year in the Big Ten, you had to win those games.
But isn't it unusual to have that many must-wins just piling up this soon?
Well, you look at that back-ended schedule that Indiana has, and if you don't win these games, not only is it put a bad taste in your mouth going into the tougher part of the schedule, but it puts you in a really difficult situation where you've got to pull off some wins that are, I'm going to say, flukish. Like, you've got to go in and win. You got to do what Purdue did the other night. You got to go win at Michigan State. You got to go win it at Wisconsin, which they almost did. You've got to go beat Iowa. I mean, you don't want to put yourself in a position where those are must-win games. And if Indiana is going to have a chance to make the NCAA tournament, they're going to have to win some games that they are not favored in and not expected to win in this last half of the schedule.
Race Thompson had 11 points, 5 rebounds tonight, a little bit better performance for him offensively especially. But that's something that I think that they're going to have a lot of because there's not going to be Joey Brunk. He's not going to be around. And we don't know when Armand Franklin's coming back. So you have to continue to get the performances from Al Durham and Rob Finney that you saw tonight. But without somebody on that freshman level jumping up to add to this, to elevate them, somebody's got to elevate this team because we just saw them battle with the last place team in the conference here. Every game going forward is tougher and going to get continually more tougher.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, your first point about Race Thompson, I think Race Thompson was a gigantic part of this basketball game, part of this win. Like, he made some plays, the three-pointer to start the second half. Some of the inside post moves that he made were timely baskets that, Indiana, I think, fell behind by 3. I think there was an opportunity for them to fall behind by more than that if Race doesn't score a couple of timely baskets. So I think I really, really like where Race Thompson is right now with this team. I'm going to throw this out there, and I'm going to say it, but probably because he doesn't get double teamed to the same extent, I feel as comfortable with Race Thompson having the ball in the post as I do Trace Jackson Davis. And I'm not saying that to stir anything up. I'm just saying it as how good I feel about how Race is playing. So that being the case, if you would have told us at this point that this team is going to have the interior play from Race and Trace the way they're getting it, boy, all you would have to say right now is these guards have got to step up and play better because this should be a really, really good team.
The one thing that can change this team is Mr. Stewart, who is on campus, the grad transfer from UT Martin. We don't know when he's going to start playing. If he's going to play this, we don't know he's going to play this year. But he's a long-range shooter and someone that could add some consistency to his team. But he's a non-factor right now because we don't know when he's coming.
Yeah, and you know what? Hey, let's Indiana fans, let's recognize what we are. And we're always looking for, the quick fix, or we're waiting for that next guy. We're never quite satisfied with what we got. I mean, we said this whole thing all summer long about Christian Lander was the savior, and I'm not saying that he's not, but I think right now everybody's now looking for the next guy. Like let's deal with what we've got. If Parker Stewart gets to play, awesome. I don't think he can hurt us. But let's just deal with what we've got right now, what we know we can control, and that's the guys that we've got playing. Let's get Armand back healthy, hopefully, and get this team to the point where let's control what we know we've got right now. We've got to beat a Purdue team that's not great offensively either, but they've got some weapons. I mean, they've got a 7'27" kid that, how do you defend him? Travion Williams just makes a game winner at the Breslin Center, so he's going to be confident. I think he wants to prove he's the best big guy in the state of Indiana, so he's going to have something for Trace Jackson Davis. I could come up with a million storylines, but the bottom line is you got to win this game coming up, Thursday night.
Statistically, we look at Indiana's performance tonight, and it's pretty normal. There's nothing that sticks out. The free throws kind of fell off a little bit. They're down to 60%, shooting 15 to 25. That's something that they've got to keep consistent, especially as this schedule gets tougher, and it's going to get much tougher. They do out-rebound Nebraska, which is something they haven't done often tonight, but 41-30, a rebounding advantage for them, which is a positive for Indiana, but they should have done that. They've got to continue that, but it's going to be difficult for Indiana to maintain that inside presence when you really don't have an inside presence. You've got Trace Jackson Davis, you're without Joey Bronk, and everybody else is kind of a fill-in, but they're not true post players.
Yeah, I mean, Trace and Race have really kind of, solidified that inside. I don't think they've done a great job staying out of foul trouble. I mean, we haven't really talked all season long about games where we have major foul trouble from the big guys. So, I'm not that worried about our inside play in the Big Ten where it's so big and physical. Now, the next game we have coming up is the start of a whole bunch of games with guys that on the interior that are pretty darn good. And now we're going to find out. I mean, I didn't expect foul trouble against Nebraska, but you could definitely see it as a possibility against Purdue.
Mike asked Todd, why does Coach Archie Miller never play zone when they continue to get beat off the dribble?
Yeah, and you look at a game like this tonight, and as I said, Fred Hoiberg coming from the NBA, former player, former coach, very good at picking up on mismatches and trying to create mismatches. If you're ever going to do it, why doesn't Archie do it? I can't answer that. I mean, Archie and I don't talk about game planning, but I can't understand why it wouldn't happen. I can assure you, I'd be changing defenses all the time, and I would have tried something tonight, and I would have almost had the same. We would almost game plan mirrored each other with Nebraska tonight because I would have made them beat me from the outside. They're not a great shooting team either. Same as what Maryland was. I would have definitely worked in some zone against both of those teams because you know what. I know this will be the third time I've said it in this show tonight, but I don't love our defense. I don't think we're that good defensively. I don't know who our stopper is. If for a pack line situation, we don't keep guys we don't send them to the help as well as I think we should. We don't, there's a couple situations tonight where I just think either guys didn't see where the help was or they just were outmanned and the offensive guy got to the open area. But I didn't love our defense. I would have definitely tried a zone. I would have tried something different, even if it's for 2 possessions, just to switch things up. You can throw a team's rhythm off. We've seen it happen to Indiana. You could throw a team's rhythm off just by going to a zone for a couple of possessions and jacking with them a little bit. Archie's never been a guy that likes to do that. He's kind of the old school Bob Knight, man-to-man or die, and I don't see that changing.
Hello to Zelko Milenkovic from Serbia. Just wanted to say that. They'll shout out. That's just cool that someone's listening to us from Serbia. But while we're doing that, I want to give a shout out to everybody here at the Finney Hospitality Group. Nathan Finney, Chris Spartan, Kelly, Lindsay, all the managers here. We appreciate everybody. Andy Moore, Honda. Make sure Andy Moore, Honda in Bloomington. Look for Honda. 0% sales going on right now. Get out there and see those guys. And make sure you get down to French Lake and check them out. Todd, the schedule we talked about does not get easier. It gets more difficult. Indiana has got to continue. Don't have Armand Franklin, but they've managed. We saw the veteran guards step up tonight, and he stepped up early. Rob Finney with a career high in the first half. How rare is it for a junior? This guy's been around for a while. For his career high to come in his junior year in the first half of a game, just seems kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, that career high wasn't 40, so it's not like it's that big of a deal. And Rob's he wasn't recruited as a scorer. He's not really known as a scorer. He doesn't have a scorer's mentality, even though tonight I think he played like a two-guard. This is the first game in all 3 seasons he's played here at Indiana that I thought he's played with a scorer's mentality. And there's nothing wrong with that. He has the capability of doing it. He proved it tonight. I think he's got a couple of things that he could clean up that would make him a more consistent scorer. And, hopefully they'll work on that. They'll get some of those things figured out. But, Rob, from a standpoint of the fact that his career high was only 13 or whatever it was going into tonight, that's not a surprise and doesn't say anything negative about him. He's been a guy that's run this offense this is the 3rd season now. I think we're all of a sudden at the point where now we need more out of him. We don't have Devontae to come in here and throw 30 down on somebody in the night. We need a consistent group of guys to step up.
Coming up next, Indiana has arguably the toughest game of the season, not because it's the toughest team, but because of who it is. Because Archie is 0-6 against Purdue, because it's Purdue, and all that goes with that. But 0-6 against Purdue does not sit well with the Hoosier faithful. You go 0-7 at home, it's going to exacerbate things. But this is a win that Archie really needs to get for multiple reasons.
Yeah, and not just Archie. Like, this is not, Archie Miller is not going to make the NCAA tournament. Like, Indiana University is going to make the NCAA tournament. So this is a game that, I see it as a absolute must win if they're going to make the NCAA tournament. And yeah, it's going to be January the 14th or 13th or whatever on the day I'm going to say it's already a must win to make the NCAA tournament. Yeah, I think it is. And what does either 6-0 against one coach or 0-6 against another coach? What does that really mean to you? Well, if you're on Matt Painter's side of it, it probably means contract extensions. And if you're on Archie Miller's side of it, call Jim Harbaugh. He just got a contract extension, and he hadn't beat his rival in, a million years, still to this point. So I don't know that it's as big a deal as we make it as fans, but I will tell you, it's a big deal to us. It is a big deal. I'm sick and tired of having to listen to Purdue people even say, even when we're not very good and not going to make the NCAA tournament, we can still beat you guys. What can I say back to them? It's true. It's been true up to this point, and I'm tired of it being the case.
How important is it to win that game for that particular point right there, to make the tournament this year? Losing to Purdue, mainly not just because it's Purdue, but Purdue is kind of where Indiana is. They're in that lower 2/3 of the Big Ten. They're down there battling to try to get up. It's all important. They got the win over Nebraska and Maryland, but those are kind of 4 or 5 teams that are right there swirling that bottom. They need to win this just for a resume builder.
And you know what? I'm going to take it like a step farther, and I'm going to add a little more drama to it than what there probably should be. But I'm going to say this. I don't think Trey Kaufman goes to Purdue if Archie Miller's 6-0 against Purdue. And again, I said it's not Archie Miller, but if Indiana University consistently waxes Purdue, which it should do, when Purdue had Carson Edwards, that's a tough team to beat, okay? That Purdue team last year, not a tough team to beat. You should have beat that team. They weren't very good. And you weren't able to do it either time. And so this is a situation where if you're not pissed, if you don't want to right now show Trey Kaufman what a mistake he made, I don't know that you've got the right stuff in your system here to – if you're not pissed off about it, then you should be, because I am.
I
don't like rejection. I don't like these guys choosing another school. If you have the opportunity to go to Indiana and you don't go there, there's something wrong with you. That's my opinion. So I want to prove to Trey Kaufman right now he made a mistake. If this is not about him. This is not about Archie Miller. It's not about all that. I'm just saying, as a fan, I legit want to see this team go out with a chip on their shoulder, chips on both shoulders, pissed off, and dominate this game. Dominate it. Be mean and dominate this game. Am I crazy with that? I think that's what our fans are looking for.
And that's why you listen to him, Todd Leary, one of the competitors. When the
I'll
guys
get really
work
pissed here in a minute.
They're seriously, it's the truth, and it's what people want. That's how people are feeling. and they want to win. They're tired of losing. This being ordinary and being this close to being mediocre, it's old news, man, especially for a program that is far above that. When the resources and all that, it's time to get back to being a winner.
Jim, so many teams are trying to become a blue blood. So many. I mean, look at the success Butler's had.
Dream that they were.
And without a doubt. And so that's why I look at it, and I want these guys to understand the opportunity that they have. Not because of anything I did. The guys way before me made it a blue blood, way before I got there, way before Calvert got there. We just understood that part of it and wanted to continue that tradition. And I know these guys do too, but it doesn't come from wanting it to happen. Like, you got to make it happen. And that's why I just want them to understand. Teams like Butler had tons of success for a pretty short period of time. And when you look at it, the grand scheme of things. And they would do anything to be considered a blue blood. And Indiana has had, 18 out of the last 20 years as pretty mediocre teams, and they're still considered a blue blood. So it's still there. The 100 years of service prior to these guys being there, it's still there for them, and they really have got to take advantage of it. They're gonna regret it when they're 50 years old that they didn't do more and take more advantage of the opportunity they have at Indiana University.
Indiana taking on Purdue this Thursday at 7. Of course, we'll be back probably around 9 o'clock for that with After the Game with Todd Leary, of course, coming to you live from Yogi's. We want to make sure we thank everybody for the Finney Hospitality Group, Nathan Finney, Chris Martin, Kelly, Lindsay, everybody at the Tap, Social Catini, all that, Smokeworks, Andy Moore, Honda. They've got a 0% sales event going on right now. First time ever. You can get yourself in a Honda for 0%. Get out there, check.
Is it 21-0 at the Browns over Pittsburgh? Am I looking at that score right? It's 21-0.
20-0.
It's getting ready to be 21.
Fritz Slick, Brendan Sweeney. Make sure you get down and see everybody down at Fritz Slick. We appreciate everybody down there as well. The hotel's open. You got the casino going on, and a water park nearby, but plenty of stuff to get to, and plenty of places where you can watch the NCAA tournament coming up. That's going to be in Indiana. How crazy is that the entire tournament is going to be right here? But, man, Indiana's got to play better because the Hoosiers need to be in that tournament.
Boy, I tell you what, it's going to suck. If that tournament is here.
He's flummoxed.
It's going to suck. If that tournament is here and Indiana's not in it, because I'll tell you right now, I unless somebody wins a conference tournament, Indiana is the only team I think that has a chance from the state of Indiana to be in the tournament. Because I don't think Purdue's going to be in it, and I don't think Butler's going to be in it. I don't think Indiana State or Ball State or Notre Dame's going to be in it.
How crazy is that? I mean, it's nuts.
It would be awful. But yeah. I mean, it's an uphill battle right now. But luckily, the whole conference is going to have tons of losses. The whole country is going to have tons of losses. Indiana has put themselves in a position right now they can still play their way into it. It's just going to be tough. It's not going to be easy, which it never is. It shouldn't be.
Indiana gets an 84-76 win over Nebraska tonight in Lincoln. We'll be back after Indiana plays Purdue on Thursday at home in the Simon Scott Assembly Hall. That's going to be a late one, but hopefully Indiana can pull the win out. That is such an important game, Todd. If they lose that, I mean that's a tilter. I mean they've gotten the wins that they've had to get. That's a tilter. You can't lose to Purdue at home this year.
Yeah, you don't. This is the way I always want to look at that is I don't want to sit here and think about if they lose that game, like what the ramifications are, because that's immediately thinking negatively and all that. But I will say it from this perspective. This is a game Indiana should win. Is it a must win? I think so. To make the NCAA tournament, I think so. Could they still make the tournament if they don't win? Yes. But there's going to have to be some fluke wins that come after that, like I said. But this is a game that you want to look at from the perspective of it's a game you should win. Purdue is not man for man all the way down the line. Purdue's not better than Indiana. Their players are not better. But I wouldn't necessarily say outside of Trace Jackson Davis, Indiana's players are grossly better than Purdue's either. And so that becomes a difficult game at that point. And Purdue's going to have tons of confidence because every guy on their roster, except for 2 of them that's going to be in the game, has already beat Indiana a couple of times. So they're going to come in with confidence. They've not only won, they've won in Assembly Hall. They're not afraid of Assembly Hall. There's going to be no fans there. Winning that game last year with the most raucous crowd that could ever possibly be in Assembly Hall with Coach Knight's return, they're never going to be afraid of Assembly Hall. I can assure you of that. So I don't want to think about it if they lose, the ramifications. But if they lose, listen to the show Thursday night because it'll get ugly.
The incomparable Todd Leary joining us here, of course, after the game with Todd Leary coming to you live from Yogi's. We appreciate everybody for joining us, everybody from the Finney Hospitality Group. Make sure we'll be back on the air tomorrow. Indiana Sports Beat returns on Monday, so make sure you tune in for that. The great Don Fisher, the voice of the Hoosiers. We'll have Matt Taylor on as well, so plenty to get to there. Back Thursday after the game, after Indiana takes on Purdue. Todd Leary here, most importantly, as the basketball season continues. So look forward to that. And again, thank you guys for so much. We appreciate you all. Tune in tomorrow. Todd, thank you. As always, man, we're looking forward to hopefully this season picks up and we keep moving forward. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Make sure you tune in. But other than that, thanks everybody again for tuning in. After the game with Todd Leary here at Yogi's, we'll be back tomorrow.